Hello, I'm very grateful because I am with one of my mentors. He's Dr. John Demartini. It's hard for me to define who he is because he's a human behavior specialist, educator, business consultant, polymath, and internationally published author of 40 books. He has taught over 1 million people through 40 years of studying over 29,000 books. Before to start, yes, I would like to thank you very much because I changed a lot thanks to you, and I invite a lot of people to go to your seminar. I came from a more positive thinking mindset to a more balanced mindset, and I want to help people to go there. So I think to help people to discover your work, can you define what are the values and why it's important to know them?
Well, humans live by a set of priorities. We all do. And these priorities, the things that are most important to least important in our life. And the thing that's highest in priority is the thing that's most valuable to us. And so we could say that that priorities list is a set of values. Now, some people conjure in their head when they think of the word value, they think of morality. But values could be whatever you value at that moment, whatever is important for you to do. Could make a cup of tea, could be being healthy, working out. So the values are whatever is valuable to that individual, regardless of age or gender. And each of those individuals have a set of values, a set of priorities, a hierarchy of values, and that set of values determining how they perceive the world, making decisions in the world, and acting in the world. So the hierarchy of one's values ultimately dictates the destiny where they're going, because they keep making decisions according to it. The decisions they make are based on what they think will give them the greatest advantage over disadvantage with the data that they're perceiving, so they can make decisions and act. So everything the person does in achievement or anything in life really is filtered through a value system. So values underlie all of human behavior. So that's why most presentations I do,
Yes.
I have some components of value education in there because I think that everybody needs to start from their basics to look at what's really important in life. Anytime you set a goal that's aligned with your highest values, you increase the probability of achievement and excellence. And every time you set a goal that's not, you decrease it. So knowing those values is crucial for mastering your life, achieving greatness, and having fulfillment in life. So that's why values are so important.
Yes. Another concept that I learned from you, and I love that, the fact that everything is balanced. Can you define equilibrium? And I would love to have scientific explanation of that, of why everything is balanced in different levels, from microscopic to macro.
Well, I was in my earlier years, from age 18 to probably 28, I assumed that most people wanted to be one-sided. They wanted to be positive without negative. They wanted to be happy without sad. They wanted to be kind without cruel. You know, one-sided.
I wanted to also.
Yes. And I asked people, and I looked at myself, and I found myself not always doing that. I was always not always nice. I was also nice and mean at times. I was kind and cruel at times. I was positive and negative at times. I was supportive and challenging at times. I was pleasant and unpleasant at times, and honest and even dishonest at times. I had everything that I was thinking I was searching for. No matter how hard I worked for 10 years, I consistently found that I had the opposite. I didn't want to admit that because I wanted to believe that I was one-sided. And I felt like a hypocrite telling people be that way when I didn't feel like I was living it. In my studies of mathematics, there was a thing called equations, study of chemistry. There was a tendency to have positive and negatives joined together to make neutrality. In physics, there was symmetry and there was conservation. And no matter where I went, every field that I studied, 295 different disciplines now, it led to a balancing act. And the only place it didn't really show up that way was in physiology, psychology, sociology, and theology, which are the soft sciences. And I kept thinking, I am trying to get something that doesn't seem to be occurring. And I'm wondering, why is it the world keeps striving for that which doesn't exist? Or as the Buddha says, desiring that which is unavailable and trying to avoid that which is unavoidable. And why is it the other side's always there? And why is it not valuable? Why are people trying to get rid of half of themselves to love themselves? And I looked at my life, and I went to a dictionary, an Oxford dictionary, and I found out that when I went through that page by page, I circled every character trait that I could find that would be defined by a word. And then I looked and I wrote out a name of who I perceived that had the largest degree of that trait. So anybody that crossed my mind, that like, okay, that trait, who is it that I know that's the most extreme example? I found 4,628 traits in this big dictionary. And then I looked, and then I asked myself, so where and when have I demonstrated that? Where do I do that? And to who? And I went back in my memories, and half of those traits out of the 4,620 traits were positive, and half of them were negative. They were a balance. Even in language, we have antonyms and synonyms. In language, we see this balance. And I found out that I had every one of those traits. I was kind, I was cruel, I was honest, I was dishonest, I was friendly, I was unfriendly. And no matter what side I did, when I was honest with myself, I found that I played the roles of both of those sides throughout my life.
And yes, and how we can, because you did it through all these studies, do you think people can break this illusion in watching this video? How can they do that?
Well, first having that discovery, then I asked myself, I haven't gotten rid of it. I've never met anybody that got rid of it. Everybody who I thought had gotten rid of it, when I got to know them, I found they had both sides. So I thought to myself that it all serves. It would have gone extinct. And in biology, anything that doesn't serve eventually fades out and disappears. So it must serve a purpose. So I started asking the question, what's the benefit of these two sides? And I found out that there were benefits to the things that I thought were negative, and there were drawbacks to things that were positive. And I asked people, if I went up to you and I said to you, you're always positive, you're always kind, you're always this, you're never negative, you're never this, nobody could look at me and say that was true. But when I said that you're nice at times and mean at times and kind at times and cruel at times and giving at times and stingy at times, everybody could go, yeah, that's me. I never found anybody that would really debate that when I actually asked them personally, because they had a built-in thermostat to let them know that that wasn't so inside themselves. So what I found out is in philosophy, there was a thing called the dialectic. The dialectic is an oscillating system that says you have a thesis or proposition, and then you have an antithesis, which is a proposition that counterbalances it. And they oscillate in arguments between people until they come to a synthesis, which is supposedly, according to Hegel and Zeno, the idea of truth. And so I thought, well, in my life, it appeared that I had positive, I was supportive, and then maybe an hour or two or later, I might be challenging. And it seemed to be oscillating back and forth, even though I had them all. But then I realized that if there's a conservation of energy and a conservation of things in physics and chemistry, that there must be something simultaneous, and I must be missing it. In redox reaction in chemistry, they're simultaneous. And I started studying, started studying physics when I was 18, and I studied entanglement of pairs of opposites in physics. And wherever antiparticle and particle, they were simultaneously going on. So I started asking a new question. When I was positive, what was negative going on in my mind that was unconscious? Carl Jung divided things into conscious and unconscious. For instance, you meet somebody that's attractive, the person in your life. And at first you see there, you go, wow, very attractive, beautiful. And you assume there's going to be a little bit more positive than negative, or maybe a lot more positive than negative. But then after a day, a week, a month, a year, you start finding out that there's downsides. And your infatuation that you start with, you were aware of the things, consciously aware of the things that were supporting your values that were positive, but you were unconscious of the things that were negative that you eventually discovered. So why have the wisdom of the ages with the aging process when you can just ask, what are they now? So I found the same thing for things that I thought were terrible. At first I resented something, and then a day, a week, a month, a year, or 5 years later, I found out that there was a blessing in it. So why would I wait to find out? Why not just look now? Okay. Find it as it's there.
Yes, can I just ask you a question, because I can imagine people to ask these questions through below the video. People can say, okay, but if everything is balanced, I can be married with everyone in the planet, and I can do everything in the. For example, if everything is balanced, I can be filmmaker, and I can be also a traveler. So yes. How do you make the difference?
Well, in actuality, it is balanced. In our awareness in our reality, filtered through our values and our senses, we don't see that balance. So we therefore have our reactions. And then we come back and discover that balance in different situations. And once we transcend that particular situation and see the balance, we don't react to that anymore. We see the perfection of it. We're grateful for it. And we go on to the next thing we don't see the balance in. And so we can intellectualize that it's all balanced and everything, but we're still going to react to what we've really integrated in our life and truly seen the balance. So it's not an intellectual process. It's an integrative process by actually seeing both sides. But it's not seeing both sides over time. It's seeing them actually at the same time. That's the one that liberates us. So I developed a system to, when you're perceiving something that you think is positive, what are the downsides at that moment? Where's the opposite going on? And I've taken maybe, I don't know how many thousands of people through it.
Yes, and what is the interest to do that? Because people can say, I want to keep my eyes on what is positive. Why do we have to balance our perception?
Well, in our brain, when we see things that we think are positive, we get dopamine, and we get oxytocin, and we get vasopressin, we get serotonin, we get enkephalons and endorphins.
And we have pleasure.
And we associate it with pleasure, and we're blind. I don't think anybody is hard to see that they've been blinded by an infatuation before. And then eventually discovered the fatal attractor. They find the other side of the equation later. So again, why wait for the wisdom of the ages with the aging process when you can just go and look now? So what I've done is I've taken people who were infatuated and I've helped them look deep and find the downsides. I didn't want them to make anything up. I just wanted them to look. And they always found them. And the things they thought were terrible were the upsides, and they found them. But better than that, I asked them at the exact moment when somebody was doing something that you were admiring, at that exact moment, who was doing the opposite. And to their surprise, because they didn't believe that was real, they looked and they go, oh my God, it's there. And so I found out that whatever somebody's doing to you with your perception, you couldn't perceive it as a content in a perception without a context that had the other side. You can't perceive without contrast. You can't hear without contrast, you can't see. All your senses depend on contrast. So at that exact moment, the opposite's there too, but you filtered it out with a value system and seen one side with the conscious and cut out the unconscious. And so what I did is I found, as Jung described, a way of integrating the conscious and unconscious to make it super conscious and to integrate the pairs of opposites. And we found out that I've taken thousands of people through it, that they come out with thank you, I love you every time. Not the romantic love, the infatuation, but a deep, profound presence and love. So I always say that love is a synthesis and synchronicity of complementary opposites, which are balanced, which is inherent in the universe. So I take people through that process. I've yet to find anybody who finished that process that didn't have thank you and gratitude. And it also changes their physiology. It helps them heal. It helps them in a relationship. It helps them set realistic goals. Because sometimes people set up fantasies that they think are goals and then get smacked by the things that they were unconscious of because they didn't have a balanced perspective. So the productivity of setting a goal that's more balanced is a higher probability of achievement than a fantasy. And a fantasy is something that's got a positive without a negative. And people want that because an animal is always trying to avoid pain and predator and is always looking for pleasure in prey. Yeah. And so our animal nature always wants that positive pleasure, but it always gets smacked by the predator. The wise individual, the human that's beyond the animal, is able to see both with objective reason and see things together. Our intuition is always trying to reveal to us the side we're unconscious of, that we're ignoring, to try to help us see that balance and liberate us from the emotional attachments that occupy space and time in our mind while we're charged by it, and liberate us so we can get into moksha, or liberation from our bondage, from our emotional things that we seek or avoid, our attachments.
I have a question about values and goals. You say that we are at our maximum of growth in the border of challenge and support.
Yes.
And I have a lot of this. I received this question a lot in my seminars. How can we make the difference between the uncomfort you feel because you are not fulfilling your highest value, and the uncomfort you can feel because you are fulfilling your values and you need it to grow? Do you see the difference?
Yes. When you're setting a goal that is aligned and congruent with what you value most, which will easily be demonstrated in your daily actions, because tell me what you do every day and I'll tell you what you value. If you set a goal that matches that you spontaneously are inspired to get up and do it, you'll embrace pleasure and pain equally in equal quantities with objective reason towards that objective. Intelligent individuals who set goals don't set up fantasies and try to avoid all negatives. What they do is they think out the goal. They know there's going to be challenges and obstacles and things to go through to get there. And they set up contingency plans for each of those obstacles and see that so when it comes, they're proactive, not reactive. And they get their goal. They increase the probability of getting a goal. I don't know of anybody that's achieved incredible things that didn't put contingency plans in place in preparation. They have foresight, not reactive with hindsight. If you wait for a negative to occur because you fantasize about one side and they weren't prepared for the other, you have to react from hindsight. But if you proactively think in advance, what are the things that could go wrong? How do you solve them? Then your mind's cleared. You're not distracted by it. You go focused on your outcome. And when it occurs, you go to plan A and you just act and you get the job done. Anybody in architecture knows they have to do that. Anybody in going to space has to do that. I don't know of anybody that's done extraordinary thing that didn't have to have contingencies in place.
Okay, can I take an example? For example, it's easier for me to learn through videos, and also I know that I can learn a lot through books. I read books, but not a lot. So sometimes I am wondering, do I am avoiding pain just because it's pain, or do I have to follow my highest value and just watch videos because it's inspiring me?
Well, you're going to strive, either consciously or unconsciously, for the most effective and efficient pathway to fulfill what's most important to you. It's called the law of least action. It's going to do whatever you can to make yourself most efficient. If you have perceived in your past that visually and or auditorily viewing something and hearing something has been more effective than you reading, you'll follow that path. And that's not a better or worse path. I know people that speed read and absorb books and read 20 books in a day. I know people that actually watch 20 videos in a day. So whatever pathway, if it does it, you're probably going to get more from audio video because you're going to get double audio and video input. But some people learn by different means. Some people, if they have to go by the speed at which somebody talks, it's only 300 words a minute. If you can speed read a book and go to 5,000 words a minute, that's more efficient to gather information than just listening at a speed of speaking. So it depends on what your capacities are in learning to access the vehicles that you do to get the learning. You probably love the audio and visual format. I've used visual because I can read at incredible speeds if I need to. So I have the ability to listen to this or this, but sometimes I actually watch a video, I feel it's too slow. I'd like to get on and read. I could read a book in that hour or 2 books in that hour, get 100 times more information. So it depends on what you access in the vehicle that's more effective and efficient for you with your skill base.
Okay, I see. How do you explain scientifically the law of attraction? Because there are a lot of kind of bullshit on the internet about the law of attraction, and I would love to have the way to listen to the way you explain it.
Well, I think that most people have had experiences where they've thought about people and they called or they sent an email, and there's been this synchronicity of events in their life. It's too frequent to ignore, but not frequent enough to reproduce. And so there's always a pausing question in some people's minds. How do you make it a duplicatable science? I'd rather prefer to put it this way and take some of the esoteric out of it and say that when you are a mother and you're dedicated to 3 beautiful children and you're 35 years of age and your highest value is those beautiful children, if you walk in a mall, you're going to see children's items, things that are going to help the children develop its education, its health, etc. You're going to selectively bias what you see in the mall according to what you value most. It's called selective bias tension, filtering through what is called the pulvinar region of the thalamus. It just filters it. When you do, you're going to have a heightened awareness and you're going to have an excitement of anything that's going to help you get that value met, because your children are important to you. You can sleep through a freight train and wake up with a whimpering of a child on a monitor because that's how important it is. So you have a selective biased attention. So you have a heightened awareness on anything that's going to help you fulfill what's most important to you. So with that said, when you do, you also have an increased amount of data that's absorbed into your mind consciously and unconsciously to help you fulfill that highest value. Because your brain is a telos-seeking organ, a highest value seeking organ. So as you perceive and you walk in a mall, you'll spot anything in that mall that might help your children. You won't notice business materials. You won't notice anything else. You'll spot children materials. Because you're selective in your attention and you're selective in your retention, you retain that information, you'll store it, you'll have more data to do it, and you'll see more opportunity. Now, when it's high in your values, you also have a higher probability of making quicker decisions because you have more data. You also have the ability to go out and take action on it and sustained action because it's highest on your value, and you'll pursue it regardless of pain or pleasure. So you increase the odds of achieving something the moment it's high in your value because you see opportunity, you make decisions quick, you retain the information, you imagine your outcome, and you take action with intention and get the outcome. And somebody there that has anything to do with that, you'll spot. You'll think it's synchronicity, but it's your awareness. Now, if you set a goal that's not your highest value, it's not really important to you, but you think it is.
Let's say, for example, for me, to have a Ferrari, it's not important, but I can have the fantasy to have it.
Yeah. Well, if it's something you fantasize and you think, oh, that'd be nice, but it's not really truly valuable to you, and you set out to sail on it, your real values will filter your reality, and it's not really highest on your values, and you won't see the opportunity, you won't take the actions on it, and you'll think, oh, the secret's not working. The law of attraction's not working.
And is there a difference? Because you say that our true highest value are filtering the world. So is there a difference between doing nothing and consciously knowing your highest value?
I ask people in audiences from small to large, how many of you want to be financially independent? Everybody puts their hand up. About 99 to 100%. Great. Then I ask them, what percentage of the population reach financial independence?
2%.
1%.
Yes.
Actually less. And I said, so that means that 99% of you are deluded in all probability. And I can tell you this, that they don't really have a value on wealth building. They have a value on living the lifestyles of the rich and famous and spending money on the lifestyle. And if you have a desire to spend money on the lifestyle and not actually on building wealth, then the second you get money, you'll keep raising your lifestyle and never accumulate wealth.
And I have to say that I love your audios on money, and I advise people to purchase it.
Well, this is because people think they have a value on something, but their life doesn't demonstrate it. Your life demonstrates your values. And if you don't have savings in place, you're not serving people, making a profit, saving a portion of it, investing a portion of it, accumulating it, then you don't have a value on wealth building. You have a value on spending your money the second it comes in, on things that depreciate and go down in value, liabilities many. So many people have a fantasy that they have a value on wealth building, but they don't. And many people have a fantasy about what they're going to do, but it's not really their value. And those people that set a goal on those fantasies think, well, the secret's not working, the law of attraction's not working, etc. I don't see these opportunities, I don't see synchronicities, etc. It's not high in their values. They just fantasize that it was high in their values. But when it's really high in their values, they see opportunity, and they see opportunities around them. I'll give an example. There was a guy that I met, a young guy, extremely focused on wealth building, more than myself. I'm financially independent. I have a value in wealth building, but his is higher. My highest value is teaching, researching. His is way at the top. We walked through the mall in Houston, Texas, in the Galleria Mall. It's hundreds of shops there. As we were walking, I noticed bookstore, suit store, computer store, because I use those tools in what I'm doing. He walked by with a notepad, and every store that was busy, he wrote down the store because he was thinking about buying stock in stores that were busy, flooded. He was looking at stock purchases as we were talking. I was looking at things that helped me teach. We were filtering the same environment, completely different. So he was looking for opportunities. So he spotted them. I didn't even pay attention to the number of people in the store. It wasn't even important to me. I was noticing the clothes when I walked by because I like good suits. I was noticing the bookstore that they had, and I was noticing the computer store in case I needed a computer. So what was in my values, I filtered out of my reality. So I saw synchronicity around that. He saw synchronicity around what was his values. So we filter our reality accordingly. So it's not like a mystical thing out there. It's actually something more concrete, and it's based on what you value most in your life. So if you really want to get the power of the law of attraction, you want to make sure you're congruent. And that was very much in The Secret. I said that in The Secret, but it was never included in the movie. Yeah. But in the follow-up materials that we have, it was included. So it's so important to make sure you set goals that are truly authentic, integral to what you really value to maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of seeing opportunity and taking actions and making it happen.
I love that. I read a lot of comments below my video like, yes, but it's too hard to change. It's too hard to do that. It's too hard to list my value. So according to you, why some people find the courage to do not only do seminars but and apply it, read books and apply it, change their life, meet masters. And some people, sometimes I'm frustrated when I see people just say it's too hard.
Well, if you ask me to bake a cake, get in a delivery truck and deliver that to somebody, I'd probably tell you it's too hard. It's so low on my values, I will not want to go do it. So anything that's high in your values, you'll endure pain and pleasure in pursuit of it, and you won't stop. You'll have perseverance. And you'll make decisions quick, and you'll take actions, and you'll see opportunities, you'll make it happen. Anything that's low on your values, but you fantasize it's important to you, you'll give up. So it's so important that if you expect yourself to climb a tree when you're a fish, you're going to beat yourself up because you're not designed for that as a fish. You're designed to swim. So many people live in a fantasy. They compare themselves to other people. They admire what they've done. They go, oh, I should be like that. I'm supposed to be like that. I need to be like that. I want to now do with that. I want to be like that. They don't have the real values to get it. And they go pursuing it. And then they end up thinking, oh, I keep sabotaging. I keep not doing it. Why am I lazy? And they label themselves lazy, but they're not lazy in what's really important to them. They're lazy in what they think is important to them that isn't. And so the label of lazy and these kind of things and not driven and things that people that need motivation to do things and reminded to be motivated, that's because they're setting goals that aren't really theirs and it's low on their value list.
And I love your answer. And when they don't take the time to list their values,
you're only going to do things and be reliable and disciplined and committed to doing something you think is going to give you the greatest advantage or disadvantage to your highest values at any moment. So if I don't perceive that it's going to help me, I don't want to do it. I don't do it, and I delay. And somebody that wants me to do it will say I'm lazy or undisciplined. But in the area that's high in my values, somebody will say, if they have that same value, they'll go, oh, he's very disciplined. I'm very disciplined to research and teach every day. I'm not disciplined to drive or cook or things that are solely low on my values. And frankly, I don't even see things like that. I don't even notice cars. I don't notice things like that. That's not what's important. I have people that drive me, so I don't think about what car that is. I don't even know half the name of the cars on the planet today because they're low on my values.
Okay. I see a lot of people who believe that through economy and business, we are destroying not only the earth, but also our species. And they believe that, yes, we are destroying ourselves. What do you think about that?
I think it's a sign of not really looking at a broad enough picture to see that. Every human being both builds and destroys. You cannot build anything without destroying something. So to live in a fantasy you're supposed to build without destroy, it's a delusion. You can't build a building without taking minerals, rocks, wood, something from somewhere else to build something. So the idea of building and destroying are always in equilibrium in nature. You can't, to even think you're going to do one without the other is just delusion. So to think you're going to have that outcome, you're fantasizing. So you have to honor the destructive part of your own nature. If you're trying to get rid of half of yourself and love yourself, it's not going to happen. You got to learn that you're both builder and destroyer. You're a transformer. You're a Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, as they say it in the Hindu Trimurti. You're both sides. So I'm a builder and destroyer. I also know that whatever we do that disturbs the environment, I've been doing this long enough to see that in the 1950s, the Hudson River in New York was just absolutely polluted. There were dead fish in it. You couldn't swim in it. There's junk floating everything, etc. Today, people are swimming in it and fishing in it. So what happens is the problem today becomes a new solution tomorrow. As Bucky Fuller says, pollution is future solution. So anything that comes along that we think is bad or destructive or whatever, once we do, we'll have people that'll come up with solutions for it. So I'm absolutely confident that human beings will both create new problems and bigger problems and find out new solutions and create bigger problems and create new, bigger solutions and create newer problems, and it's not ending. That's the nature of the evolution of the human being.
So for you, technology is balanced.
Technology is balanced. Every time technology tries to go far too fast, ecology comes in to keep it in check. They'll make sure it doesn't go too fast. And if all of a sudden technology slows down, ecology slows down. So they're keeping each other in order. The technology is a futuristic thinking of the foresight. And the ecologist is a past thinking of hindsight. And they always keep each other so people stay present. That's what spirituality is. People think spirituality is one side, but spirituality is the embracing of both sides, build and destroy, which is inside us. Your body is building and destroying with mitosis and apoptosis. It's building and destroying. You have reduction and oxidation. You have generation and annihilation. You have neuroplasticity, which is building and destroying brain, building and destroying bone, building and destroying tissues, You're building and destroying inside you so you can adapt to changing environments. If you didn't destroy yourself, imagine a city that never had any building destroyed. Would it keep up with the evolution of society? No, it's got to destroy old buildings and build new ones to keep up with the society. In psychology, you have to destroy old ideas and build new ideas to keep up with the changing world. So you have to build and destroy. It's part of the evolutionary process. And I just amazed how people can't see the obvious. I call it the elusive obvious.
Yes, thank you very much. From 10 minutes, I have tears of inspiration about that. I'm grateful to be able to spread this message. I want to see more people to understand that everything is balanced. Yes, it was hard to keep my concentration with that, so thank you very much, John, and I would love to see more people understand your work and what you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.